You know, for a movie about the seven seas, this is actually pretty damn shallow. But it's fun shallow. Hey guys, just me tonight, mostly because it's 2 days after Christmas, everyone's tired. It's really the long and short of it. So I decided I just need to go see Aquaman, get that out of my hair, because I already covered Bumblebee, and this is the other big blockbuster out, unless you count Mary Poppins a blockbuster, but anyway. And the movie's also 2.5 fucking hours long, so I decided to go see it on a day where I get to sleep in tomorrow, which just happens to be today. So, yeah, long story short, I'm here to see Aquaman, and, this has been getting a lot of mixed reception. Some people love it, other people think it's kind of some people think it's crap. I'm kind of in the second category. I think it's kind of I guess to generalize it, before I go into detail, is dialogue is mostly crap, but James Wan can shoot the fuck out of an action sequence. I mean, that's really what it boils down to in a nutshell. You gotta respect, I will say this, I respect this movie enough for, and I said this in the other video I made about this, about when I said, I think it was like Aquaman got really, really wrong, and, I was for the most part right in that video, but I gotta give this movie a lot of props for, pretty much going all in on an Aquaman movie. Like, it really just throws everything in the kitchen sink in this film, and it doesn't hold anything back, and whether or not it all works or it doesn't, you gotta respect it for that. You gotta respect it for, like, you know what? If we're gonna make an Aquaman movie, let's make a fucking Aquaman movie. Let's get in the trenches, let's make a giant crab, kraken thingy, monster, fucking kaiju, whatever the hell you want to call it. Let's throw in crab people, let's throw in, like, them riding sharks, and Aquaman's gonna ride a seahorse, gonna look cool, and all this shit is thrown in your way. We're gonna throw in, like, Aqua Power Rangers that are gonna be the troopers for Ocean Master. We're gonna give Ocean Master the goofy helmet, and it's somehow kind of work. Oh lord, we're gonna get Black Manta. He's gonna have the wide head and everything. It's gonna work surprisingly well. Speaking strictly visually, this movie excels in that regard. James Wan knows how to do his visuals. It looks fantastic. The designs, as goofy as they are, and they are extremely, extremely goofy, do work for the most part. At the very least, you get used to it, because when the Super Troopers first show up, you're kind of like, oh, that was the design you guys went for, okay. But it works. It works for the most part. Sorry, I just realized I got a little ketchup on my shirt from dinner. Anyway, I'm not sure my pants. Oh man, I like these pants too. Oh well. Where was I going with this? Hey, sorry, I lost track of thought. But really, the action scenes and the visuals are really the best part of the film. Jason Momoa did better than I expect him to. The movie didn't rely quite as much on the surfer bro image that the trailer suggested, so I was glad to see that in particular. And Jason Momoa is charming enough. He managed to pull it off. He definitely had more screen presence than in Justice League, which, by the way, this movie really wants you to pretend that Justice League never happened. I think there's like one reference to Steppenwolf, and that's fucking it. But yeah, this movie, like, Jason Momoa does a pretty solid job as this universe's version of Arthur. Mira's good. I liked her okay. Her and Arthur have good enough chemistry. I don't know about, like, sexual chemistry, so, like, I didn't really buy into the romance, but, like, when they're actually allowed to talk as their characters, they bounce off each other pretty well. But I think the real enemy of this movie really is the writing, because the writing, like, the way the dialogue is presented, the way everything is done, is... It's already hard enough taking an Aquaman movie seriously. When you throw in dialogue like this movie has, it makes it even harder. The dialogue's not very good. And a lot of the writing's kind of shitty. I mean, it's not the worst thing I've seen this year, and it's not, like, to the point where it's frustrating, but it did take me out of the moment. It did take me out of a lot of the scenes, because I just had a hard time taking what these people were saying seriously. It gets better. It gets better as it goes along. But, like, these characters, for the most part, are really, really shallow characters. Like, outside of, like, maybe Arthur and Mira, there wasn't really that many I really connected to in any way. And wasn't when I was never really that invested in what was going on necessarily. I still watch, like, the big action sequences. The big action is, like, really fucking cool. And that's what you can tell, like, this movie really shines. Like, they go all out for the action sequences. Like, the big war scene at the end has, like, dolphins and squids and kaiju and crab people and sharks and all these cool things just blowing up and boom, 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 boom. And it looks, and the way it's shot and the way that's lit and the colors and all this stuff of these look amazing. And I'm not gonna shit the movie for that, because, like, whether you like the movie or not, you gotta admit, like, they went all in for the visuals, and whether or not it works, you gotta respect it for that. But the problem is, kind of lies in everything else going around it. Now, for the first, I want to say, like, hour of this movie, or like 45 minutes to an hour, the movie is largely exposition, and it definitely gets old pretty quick. And some of the dialogue choices they make here, and, like, you can tell the actors having a hard time selling this. Like, Nicole Kidman plays Aquaman's mom, and she's like the first Atlantean scene in the film. But some of the dialogue she has at the beginning of the movie is just so bad and clunky that you could tell Nicole Kidman is trying so hard to sell this, and she just can't do it. And I'm like, oh man. I think the one that the first one that really endeared her, oh Jesus Christ in heaven, was I mean, we all know this is gonna happen. There's a part where she has to leave to go back in the ocean, leave Arthur with his dad up on the surface, and then she starts crying a tear, and she says, "In my world, tears flow into the water," and the man goes, "Up in our land, you feel it," and it's like, oh, good Lord, you had to say that out loud. And there's a lot of lines like that, especially in the beginning. Now, once you get past the big stadium fight that happens in the middle of the movie, the one that's in all the trailers, between Aquaman and Ocean Master, the movie does get better. Because they do it, like, it's not great necessarily, but the dialogue does improve in that the characters are allowed a little more time to actually talk and actually interact and actually be more than just exposition fairies, which is what they were up to that point, because the movie has a lot of ground to cover. To be fair, the movie does have a lot of ground to cover, and so a lot of it feels like the first act is largely just getting a lot of that shit out of the way. Now, granted, there's still, like, exposition kind of scattered throughout, but the majority of it's done in the first act. But once you get past, like, the first fight with Ocean Master, that's when that's when the movie definitely improved. It does get a little slapsticky, and, like, they're trying to be funny, but the writing just not there, so a lot of it just feels either really immature or just not funny, period. And, like, by the way, I'm just gonna point this out here, and I might get some shit for this, but for anyone, like, and I only know this because I'm on Twitter a lot, and I see a lot of this bullshit. If any of these DCEU fanboy bullshit actively defend this movie and then still give Marvel crap for relying on humor from the movies, you're a fucking hypocrite. They're fucking hypocrites at that point. If you're one of these people, you're gonna defend this movie, and you're gonna give Marvel shit for using comedy, you're a fucking hypocrite. Because this movie is so clearly trying to follow the Marvel formula. Very, very clearly. Except the writing for the humor just isn't there. The writing for the humor, like, writing in general, is just not very good. But to be fair, I'm not really sure it's why you're there. You're there for Jason Momoa to be charming. You're there to watch big undersea fights, or there to watch James Wan's directorial talents, and all that stuff is there, and all that stuff is entertaining. So I guess how much you're gonna like or hate this movie is really gonna depend on how much you like the dialogue or you like the writing. Me personally, like, it gets a job done. I've certainly seen worse screenplays this year, but there are some parts I was like, oh man, get back to the action scene, please stop talking. And, you know, there's a lot of it. And I don't think it's any of the actors' fault. The actors are certainly doing their best, but they're just giving some really crap things to say. I guess I should talk a little bit about Ocean Master. Ocean Master, as far as villains go, and this kind of comes back to the writing, is he is kind of a... Again, I like that actor, and he's definitely playing it up the best of his abilities, but it's still kind of an villain, pretty forgettable. Same goes for all these characters. All the characters are really kind of one note, really shallow. There's really not a whole lot to them. The movie doesn't really have interest in showing more than the bare minimum, which, again, is fine if you're just in there for the spectacle, but it's... I'm gonna get shit for this. It's not as good as a Marvel movie. If I had to like compare, like the closest comparison I would say for this movie would be like, it's on par with Iron Man 2. I thought Wonder Woman did a lot better job with its characters. Oh, this movie does have a lot better third act than the Wonder Woman movie does. Sorry, I got an itchy face. Or like, I know a lot of people kind of compare this like the first Thor movie, and like, yeah, thematically I see that. But personally, I thought Thor 1 had a lot better writing. I actually think Thor 1 has a lot better writing than anyone gives it credit for. But this movie does not have that. But yeah, so like Black Manta's also in this movie, and to be fair, this one I do kind of blame more of the actor, because I don't think he was. I just didn't buy him as a really genuine threat. When you can see his face when he's wearing the Black Manta suit, it actually looks pretty cool, and the fight scene they have is pretty damn good. So you can buy him as a threat then. But whenever he's talking, he has like he has a lot of cringe-inducing dialogue. But at the same time, as far as like quickly establishing villain motivation goes, they do a pretty good job at that. Or they almost did, but then they had to keep talking. Because what happens in the beginning of the movie, this is going to spoiler territory, is the part that's in the trailer, it starts on a submarine, and Black Manta is with his father, and they're pirates, and they're hijacking the submarine, and long story short, fight with Jason Momoa happens, and the dad gets pinned behind like a missile or something like that, and the son is desperately trying to get them there, and then Aquaman's kind of walking away, and then he says like, please help me free my father, or he's gonna die, and then Aquaman basically says fuck you, and he leaves. So as far as like straightforward I want revenge motivation goes, that's a pretty good way to set it up. What kind of killed it though a little bit was the lines that came afterwards when he's having his his big final, Black Manta's having his big final farewell to his father, and then again, if you can't tell that Black Manta's gonna look for revenge, as if you're, again, the dialogue really assumes you're stupid. He goes like, you need to live so you can kill that son of a bitch. Word for word what he says. And then when he says like, no, I'm not gonna leave you, I'm not gonna leave you, he pulls out a grenade, and then like in his most serious face, Black Manta goes, damn you! And then it turns around and then runs out of the cockpit. And when that happened, all I could think of is Die Hard 5 when John McClane's dad goes, damn you, John! Damn you! And nothing should remind you of Die Hard 5. Not a single thing in the world should remind you of that fucking turd. So the fact that that brought those memories back, that's not a good sign. So they're obviously setting him up to be the villain for the sequel, and based on how much money this has made, it's made a shit ton of money, especially in China, and I could definitely see why Chinese audiences like this. This definitely feels like, and I'm only basing this on the fact that also Warlock was also a huge hit over there. This definitely feels like a big explosion-y spectacle movie that's really well shot and really well animated, that would definitely get their attention, so I can see why this is a big hit in China. I can see why people are enjoying it here. I enjoyed it to an extent. I didn't love it. I wouldn't say it's good. I wouldn't say it's bad. There are definitely bad things about it. There are definitely great things about it. It's just very much in that it's an Marvel movie, but I do have a lot of respect for it, for just going all in and just saying, you know what? We're gonna make this as silly as possible. We're gonna throw shit at the wall and see what sticks. We'll work out the bugs in the sequel. Which, you know what? If they do that, I'm down for a sequel. I would love to see this tweaked a little bit, and I would like to see Black Manta have a better script. I never really understood why he just wasn't the main villain, but I guess they're trying to do like what they try to do with Sinestro in the Green Lantern movie, which like set him up. And as far as like setting him up for a sequel goes, this movie does a fair job at it. And again, the action scenes they have him in are pretty good. And, yeah, I really can't think of a whole lot else to say about this, to be honest. I mean, there's not a lot of in-depth stuff to talk about. It's exactly as advertised. It's an Aquaman movie, and it comes with all the silly, ridiculous things that Aquaman comes with. So, if you can handle that, if you can handle the bad dialogue, if you can handle just the overall silliness of it, this movie is very, very, very silly, and it doesn't pull it off as effortlessly as Marvel seems to have a good habit of somehow. I don't really know how they keep doing it, to be frank, because like I'm looking at some of the designs here, especially like the I'm just gonna call them the Power Rangers, the Power Ranger troopers. it's a design that looks so inherently cheesy that I don't even think Marvel would go with something like that, and I don't know what that says. There's actually quite a few suit designs that feel that way. That being said, Aquaman's final look, which is again is in the trailer with the orange suit, the orange chainmail, and the green gloves and stuff like that, that actually does work pretty well when you actually see it in action. So good for them for actually making that work. I do have some issue, and maybe it's just because it was impossible to shoot it practically. I do wish more of the action sequences that are on land were done practically, because that feels like the point where you should be able to do more with your cinematography, or no, sorry, that's choreography, with your choreography than what they were doing here. Because like I think a fair amount of like some of the fight moves between Black Manta and Aquaman are practical. I think I could be wrong, but like when Aquaman is fighting Ocean Master at the end, I'm just kind of thinking like, you could have done this and like. You could have done this practically. You could have made this work, and it would have been cool to see it work. Like have like a Captain America Civil War style fight at the end on top of a ship would have been pretty cool to see. But maybe the actors weren't up for it, or it just was easier to get the camera work and stuff. Which again, for the scene, it looks really cool. Maybe it was just easier to get all done, be animated in. I don't know. But either way, that's more of a personal preference. I kind of wish they did more of that, but it's not bad that they didn't. I just wish they did. I mean, like, the effects aren't necessarily great, mind you, but the visuals are interesting enough that it doesn't really bother you all that much. At least it didn't bother me that much, although, like, it was very distracting when someone's hair would kind of, like, flop in the water, but their face was clearly still stagnant. Or when the movie would just randomly decide when somebody would talk with the undersea filter, and when they wouldn't, because that kept changing off and on. I do gotta, and again, some of the musical choices, especially in the first act, are really, really silly, and it's really, really hard. Like, stuff like that really took me out of it. Like, there are not one, but two different shots. There's this guy with his brights on in front of me. It's fucking hell. Where not once, but twice do they have a shot where, like, someone, like, hits or does something, like, an ineffective move toward Jason Momoa, and he does, like, the... But while he does this, the music does this really obnoxious... Dun, 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 dun. And then it just zoom into his face. It does it twice, and I'm like, oh, because I guess the first time wasn't good enough. And it's that crowd's like, all right, okay, movie. And again, it's hard to see why this kind of silliness isn't working for me 100%, but Thor Ragnarok really does, and I think what it largely boils down to is just that Thor Ragnarok has better defined characters and. Well, better designed characters, better writing, and a world that feels more organically presented, I guess. Like, for some reason, all of this weird shit happens in Thor Ragnarok, but you never question its authenticity. You never question that this is something that will exist in Thor's world. Now, to be fair, I'm like, maybe it's not really a fair comparison, considering at this point it's also had several years of Marvel movies to build up to that. But I feel like it would have worked without it, honestly. But this one definitely has issue. It has to overcome the clunky writing. It has to take a lot of time to explain this overcomplicated world. Thor Ragnarok really only does at the barest minimum. Because I don't think they really talk about the history of the world. And it's a world that exists, and Thor's on it. Now he's dealing with it. I don't know if I know what I'm saying right now. I'm trying to kind of piece my thoughts together. But I guess overall, like, I felt like the characters were there. I felt like the characters were defined. They felt real. They felt lived in. They felt like they lived in this world, and that's what sold the world. There you go. That's what I'm thinking of. Because the writing really worked for the characters. The writing does not work here, so it's harder to make them feel as integrated and into the world. And it's hard not to see them as plot devices, because a good chunk of the movie, they don't really feel like people that live here, you know? I hope that makes sense. I was kind of rambly, but I think, okay, let me try this again. If I'm comparing this to like other more mainstream Marvel movies, like even some of the goofiest ones out there, again, back to Thor Ragnarok, the reason that worked with the silly concept, was the silliness and the world it built and how over the top it was, is because everything felt like an actual world that existed, and these felt like people that lived there. Aquaman doesn't really have that. So when characters are spouting out exposition, it feels like they're spouting exposition. It doesn't feel like something they would just say here in this context, you know? It doesn't feel as, I don't want to say believable, because it's still about an underwater kingdom, but it doesn't feel as seamless, if that makes sense. I hope that does make sense. But all that being said, if you're just here to watch some undersea fights and watch some ridiculous cartoony action, you'll have a good time here. It definitely, like, there's even the infamous octopus playing the drums that everyone's been talking about lately. It definitely plays up the goofiness. If that's what you want, you'll have a good time. I mean, I enjoyed myself. I didn't love this movie, but I didn't really hate it either. Which is good considering my track record with the DCEU movies. Like, I would go watch a sequel if they made one. I like to see them come with a better script. Maybe with some a bit more meat on there, like maybe more character development. I would like to see that. But James Wan can shoot the hell out of an action scene, so he does make up for a lot of the movie's flaws. So, I think that's all I really have to say about this. I can't think of anything more. I mean, I guess I'll give it this much. It makes me want to pick up the Jeff Johns Aquaman run, which has been on my list for a while. So yeah, that's all I got on that. So let me quickly go over the trailers because it is late and I want to go home. So, and my battery is low. Don't you know? Going to a place nearby. That's an old song now. Anyway, sorry, I'm rambling. Most of these trailers I've gotten before, so I'm going to go over them very quickly. Upside, talked about them before. Pet Sematary, same trailer as last time. Holmes and Watson. This is actually a new trailer, when you can tell they're really trying to sell the fact that Will Ferrell and John C. Reilly are in it. Just trying to sell this. Apparently this movie's so bad that Netflix said no when they tried to sell it to them. So that's not a good sign. I think it's got like 7% Rotten Tomato. I just know I'm going to have a hard time trying to convince someone to go see it with me. I know I'm going to have to see it because of how fucking bad it is. So, yeah, that's going to be painful. Then we have, I finally got the trailer for Avengers Endgame. Which, of course, I'm looking forward to because, again, DC is slowly learning their lesson. They're definitely doing a trial and error period right now. They're trying to see what works and what doesn't work. But Marvel has kind of already figured that out a long time ago. So, I have no doubt Avengers Endgame, if it's going to be great, and if not, at the very least, it's going to be interesting. And it looks like they're definitely pulling all the stops here. Of course, you got Hawkeye's Ronin in this, which looks pretty cool, and the trailer doesn't really show much beyond that. So, except maybe time-traveling Ant-Man, maybe? I don't know. But, yeah. I have no reason to think it's going to be bad, so... Alita, talked about before. Alita, I've talked about that before. Glass, talked about that before. Godzilla, go watch the video, a couple videos down if you want me thoughts on that. And Shazam, which also has a video. You can go watch quite a few videos down, but you can find it. It's in either that or go look in the Very Right or Very Wrong playlist. It's in that. But I talk about both these trailers at length in that playlist, so go check it out there. Yeah, overall, Aquaman, it's shallow, but fun. That's really about it, you know. I mean, I guess it's the best you can hope from an Aquaman movie. I just hope they do better writing in the sequel. But I'm not mad that I saw it. So, yeah. So that's it for that one. And then, so later this week, I'll probably be back here tomorrow, honestly. I still gotta see Mary Poppins. I still gotta go see Vice. I still gotta see Holmes and Watson. And I'm sure there's more that I have to go see. That I'm going to try to cover as many as I possibly can. It's possible one or two fall off with the cracks. Hopefully not. But we will see. So thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you all next time. Take care.